the book of Genesis and continuing on the story of Joseph. I just had never realized how much there was to learn from Joseph. I mean, you read the Bible and everything, and there's just times where these things just begin to really like come alive. And that's kind of what Joseph did for me this time around. It just came alive. So tonight I'm going to be in chapter 40, and I'm going to be talking about resilience. And what is resilience, and why do we need resilience? So at this point, Joseph was already in prison. If we remember from last week, he got thrown in prison because he was falsely accused. But while he was in prison, God gave him favor with the prison guard. And he started, the prison guard put him in charge over the other prisoners. It's so crazy. Everywhere Joseph was put, even if it was a horrible situation, he always somehow ended up in a position of being in charge. So I'm not going to read verses 1 through 13. This is when two of the prisoners had a dream. And Joseph was kind of like, hey, what's wrong, And they had a dream, and there was nobody to interpret their dream. One of the guys was Pharaoh's cupbearer, or his butler. And then the other one was Pharaoh's baker. So they both had a dream. And the cupbearer shared his dream with Joseph. And Joseph interpreted it for him because God gave him the ability. So in verse 14, it says, and this was Joseph telling the cupbearer, but remember me when it is well with you, and please show kindness to me. Make mention of me to Pharaoh, and get me out of this place. For indeed I was stolen away from the land of the Hebrews, and also I have done nothing here that they should put me in the dungeon. I mean, it's not like our prison system today. In our prison system today, you can get packages, you can get visitors, you can have all these meals. Hey, they have better probably medical stuff than us. We have to fight for our medical stuff, but they can get theirs. So he was thrown in the dungeon. And after he interpreted his dream, he pretty much told them, you're going to be restored to your original position. And all he asked was to be remembered. Like, hey, put in a good word. You ever do that? You do something good for somebody that has an opportunity to advance you or whatever. You're like, hey, put in a good word for me. That's kind of what Joseph was doing. But in this moment, he was telling them, I was taken away from my land, and I was thrown in prison, and I didn't do nothing. But easily in this moment, this is when Joseph could have started throwing up. He could have started throwing up, and he could have been like, oh, well, my brothers, they got rid of me. They sold me into slavery. Pharaoh's wife, she was trying to sleep with me, but I didn't want to. So she, falsely accused me and threw me in here. He could have just started going on and on and on about everybody who's done him wrong. We've met those people. Hey, maybe at times in our life we've been those people, where we're just throwing up and we're just talking about all the bad stuff that happened to us and all the people that did us wrong. He could have easily done that, but he didn't. And then going on, it talks about the baker heard the interpretation of the other guy. So he's like, oh, it's a good one. He's going to be restored. Let me hear mine, right? We're like, okay, it's not bad. Well, he did not have a good end. There was not a good end for his interpretation. But the thing is, both interpretations came to pass. Both of them. Both of the interpretations, both of the things that Joseph told them would happen, happened. And when when all these things happened, the cupbearer who was supposed to put in a good word for him forgot about Joseph. And when Joseph, obviously realized, well, man, nothing's happening, they forgot about me, he could have started bragging. He could have started telling everybody, well, I told them this was going to happen, and I said that was going to happen, and, and they forgot about me. Because every time we say something and it happens, what's the first thing we do? Told you so. That's the first thing we do. I told you that was going to happen. Or we prophesied and it happened and we're like, yeah, I told him. I knew it. I knew that was going to happen. We make it about us. Or we get frustrated and we get angry because, we're being unheard. We're feeling forgotten. Joseph could have gotten angry and frustrated because his whole life was unfair. If we look at it, his whole life was unfair. Always feeling like he was the one that was being mistreated. If our gift is not noticed, because we all have gifts, but if our gift isn't noticed the way we want to get noticed, do we get upset and start to feel overlooked? Do we start feeling like we're not good enough? Do we start getting a little funny? Like we no longer want to share. We no longer want to do right by them. We no longer want to do the right thing. We're just like, forget them. Forget them. But why didn't Joseph get angry? Why did Joseph keep trying? In every situation, he kept doing the right thing. Because Joseph had resilience. Joseph was resilient. And what does resilience mean? The capacity to withstand or recover quickly from difficulty. Well, some of us are not resilient because some of us, we can get stuck. We get stuck in our pain. We get stuck in our hurt. We get stuck in the unfairness. We get stuck in the wrong. But it also means we're pliable. It also means we're flexible. That means we're able to bend without breaking. This is the power of resilience. Spiritually speaking, if we have resilience working in our life, see, God gave Joseph resilience. Joseph did not have resilience out of his own ability. But a lot of times, if we are not pliable, we're not moldable. We're not going to be able to be flexible. And it's like, I learned how, in the hurricanes, the palm trees, they're able to sway, but they don't break. The thing is when we're going through things, when we're going through trials, when we're facing hard situations, hard circumstances, when we're always feeling like we're getting tossed to the side, is it breaking you? Or are you allowing it to create character in you? Because if it's not bringing character into you, then you're breaking. You're breaking. You're going to end up getting angry. You're going to end up getting frustrated. You're not that pliable. And eventually, all these situations added up is going to make you stop. You're not going to be able to recover quickly. It's like, have you ever made mistakes in your life where it took you back and you could not seem to get over it? You couldn't forgive yourself. You couldn't just forgive. You couldn't let go. You couldn't move forward. See, because we lack resilience, a lot of times we don't have the ability to move on. We don't have the ability to move forward. We don't know how to let go. Every bad situation that happens to us or every bad situation we create, we don't know how to let go. We don't know how to let go. We don't know. We hold on and we start holding on to everything everybody's done to us. But the thing is, Joseph could not afford to get stuck in pity mode. He couldn't afford it. God enabled Joseph to continue to rise above every situation. But it wasn't his dreams of greatness that was giving him this resilience. If we remember Joseph's dreams, he had dreams of greatness. But it wasn't his dreams that was making him push forward. Because in these moments, he's in prison. How are those dreams going to happen in prison? So when we have these visions, when we have these dreams, that alone is not going to get you past all the things you have to face. What kept him going was his relationship with God. That's the only thing. Because if we look at the beginning of Joseph and how he always talked about God, he always said it belongs to God. He always brought God into his situations. It was his relationship with God that motivated him. It was his relationship with God that gave him the resilience. Because the truth of the matter is us, if we don't have a good enough reason to keep going or to keep pushing, we're going to quit. We're going to quit. There's been times, even in my Christian walk, I'm like, I quit. I'm done. I'm done with the people the way they are. I'm done with this. I'm done with that. I wanted to quit. Everything inside of me quit. As a matter of fact, I told God I quit. I'm done. I quit. Don't talk to me no more. You know, I was done. But my love for God and his love for me, how could I let go of that? I could not see past my pain. I couldn't see past my hurt. I couldn't see past of the all the unfair and unjust treatment. But nevertheless, what kept me pushing on was, Lord, I don't want to lose you. I don't want to lose you, Lord. He is my reason. If God is your reason to keep going, you're going to keep going. You're going to find resilience. God is going to give you resilience. You're going to have fortitude. You're going to be able to face situations, and you're going to be able to be molded by God in your situations. See, you don't have to allow these things to mold you. God is the one molding you through it. And God, because he is our reason, he's a good enough reason. He is a good enough reason. When God stops being enough for us, then everything else comes into play. And everything else is going to damage us. This is the reason why we came to God in the first place, right? We were tired of the world. We were sick and tired of being sick and tired. We were tired of everything. Joseph had every reason to quit. The people closest to him rejected him. He was betrayed. He was lied about. He was put in situations that he shouldn't have been put in. We've all gone through this. We've all experienced this. We've all experienced rejection. We've all experienced betrayal. We've been lied about. We have felt like we've been put in unfair situations. Any one of these things could have broken Joseph. As a matter of fact, we go through one of them and we're over here all broken, you know? But he went through all of it, and it didn't break him. It could have broken his spirit. It could have broken his faith. But instead, he got stronger and stronger and stronger. Because Joseph was not doing any of this for position. He was not doing it for position. See, when we're in church for a little while, we start wanting position. We start craving these things. And we start doing things to get that position. But the moment you get placed in a position and trials come your way, you break. But if you're allowing God to build you up, then when you get put in a position, you're not going to break. His heart was all about being a servant of God. That was Joseph's heart. He was a servant of God. Will we keep pressing in? We will keep pressing in if we make God our reason. And we stop making people or circumstances our reason. Because people are going to fail us. It doesn't matter how much they love us and how much we love them. They make mistakes. We make mistakes. We're going to be failed by people, and we are going to fail people. That is inevitable. Not intentional and not on purpose, or at least it shouldn't be, right? But if we're going to get resilience, if we're going to have resilience in this world, if we're going to have resilience when it comes to serving God, then we cannot put everything on people. We cannot, we cannot say, okay, well, I have a reason to fight. It's because I want to do this and I want to do that. What about when that's gone? Are you still going to have a reason? What about when you're all alone and there's nobody with you? There's nobody standing next to you. What's going to be your reason then? What's going to be your reason to fight? What's going to be your reason to push when everything's gone? When you look and there's nobody there to help you. There's nobody there to pick you up and push you forward. Are we going to remember God in that moment? Are we going to allow God to be the very reason why we keep going? God is and should be the very reason, because God is all we need. The thing is, because of God, we're able to love each other. See, if I didn't have the love of God in my heart, I'm sorry, but some of y'all, Lord, you know what I mean? And you guys would be the same way with me. You guys will feel the same way about me, because if I did not have the love of God, I would not be me. You know what I mean? What you see today is not what you would be seeing. But because God came, He changed my life. He's transformed me. He's been molding me over and over. And you know what? I pray that I am pliable, that I am moldable according to God's will and purpose for my life till the end of my days. I don't want to stop being moldable for God. I don't want to stop being pliable. I want that resilience, because if I don't have it, I quit. I'm done. I don't have the strength. I don't have the courage. I don't have the faith. When I'm not in that place with God, when I'm not serving Him because of who He is. And moving on, it talks about Pharaoh, and he had his dream. He had this dream, 2 dreams actually, and none of his magicians, none of his wise men were able to interpret the dream. But this is when the cupbearer finally remembered Joseph. And he was kind of like, oh my gosh, I remember, he remembered Joseph. And so he told Pharaoh about what happened in prison and how he interpreted his dreams. So going on to chapter 41, verse 14. It says, then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him quickly out of the dungeon. And he changed his clothes, and came to Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I have had a dream, and there is no one who can interpret it. But I have heard it said of you that you can understand a dream to interpret it. So Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, it is not in me. God will give Pharaoh an answer of peace. Again, here Joseph is bringing God into the picture. And he's telling him, God's going to give you an answer. God's going to answer it. So then it goes on to say how Joseph interpreted the dreams. And his dreams was talking about 7 years of abundance and 7 years of famine. And Joseph also gives him advice. He gives him wisdom. He gives him insight as to how to handle the situation. That was going to be coming. So, I'm going to skip down to verse 37. And then it says, so the advice was good in the eyes of Pharaoh and in the eyes of all his servants. And Pharaoh said to his servants, can we find such a one as this, a man in whom is the Spirit of God? See, this is the amazing thing. When we bring God into our impossible situations, God is going to show himself real, not just to you, but to the people around you. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, inasmuch as God has shown you all this, there is no one as discerning and wise as you. You shall be over my house, and all my people shall be ruled according to your word. Only in regard to the throne will I be greater than you. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, see, I have set you over all the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh took his signet ring off his hand and put it on Joseph's hand. And he clothed him in garments of fine linen and put a gold chain around his neck. And he had him ride in the second chariot which he had. And they cried out before him, bow the knee. So he set him over all the land of Egypt. Pharaoh also said to Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without your consent no man may lift his hand or foot in all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh called Joseph's name I have no idea how to say that. Zapna-Paneh. And he gave him as a wife Asenath, the daughter of Potiphera, priest of On. So Joseph went out over all the land of Egypt. Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh and went throughout all the land of Egypt. After everything Joseph went through, remember, he was 17 when all this started. He had his dreams. He was 17. He got sold out by his brothers, came to a foreign land. He went to prison. And after all that, now he's in a place of great position. Now he was second in command to Pharaoh. He said, nobody is going to lift a foot or a hand without you knowing. There is no coincidence as to why Joseph kept getting put in these situations. There is absolutely no coincidence. He always got put in charge wherever they placed him. So all along, Joseph was not being the one that was getting rejected. All along, Joseph was not being the one that was overlooked. All along, God was preparing him. God was preparing him for this very moment. See, God cannot give us something that we're not ready for. Why? Because if he gives it to us, we're either going to break under the pressure. Imagine, here this kid has these powerful dreams, position or whatever, and nothing happens, and then all of a sudden he finds himself in a place of position. He's going to run it like a child, He's going to run it immaturely. So we're either going to break under the pressure or we're going to mess it up. We're going to mess it up. Why? Because we didn't have to experience anything. We didn't have to experience hardship. We didn't have to experience being humbled. We didn't have to experience getting things taken so that we know what it is to have much. See, a lot of times when we start off with nothing. When we have more, we're blessed. We're thankful for it. We're like, man, we'll take care of it. But if you've always had, then it's not a big deal to you. You know what I mean? It's not a big deal to you for you to have this. God knew what he was doing with Joseph this whole entire time. God knew how to mold Joseph. God knew what Joseph needed in order for him to become this person in great position. Because Joseph's work barely started. See, he barely came up to second in command. He still had a whole thing to go through. But because he had been humbled and humbled and humbled and humbled, he was ready. He was ready to take on this position. Don't we want all that God has for us? I want all that God has for me. Do we have the resilience? Or are we still broken? Are we broken? Because a lot of times, going in life, we can get broken by life. We get broken by situations. We no longer have peace of mind. We no longer can see the good in things. We're always just seeing the negative. We're always just seeing how people turn against us. We're always looking on how we're being rejected. We're always seeing how we're being overlooked. We're always seeing all these things. Are we in this? Are we going forward? Are we going to push through because we want position? Because we want to be noticed? Or is it because we want to be a servant of God? Because when we're a servant of God, it's not about me. It's about my God. It's about my King. It's about my Lord's desires. And because I want to honor and glorify my God, Lord, what is your will? What is your heart? I want to bless you. I want to do you good. See, whatever our motive is in doing things, it's going to play out in our life. It's going to play out. Because some of us, we're tough, you know? We come from the streets, you know, we're tough. We know what it is to put the hardcore face on. We know what it is to take some pain. We know how it is to suck it up, right? We take it, we eat it, and we push it way down. But all one person has to do is trigger that. And all that comes out, right? This memory comes, and all of a sudden, all that comes back. Somebody speaks, and it triggers that, and it all comes back. See, that's not real toughness. I'm talking about the kind of toughness when you face these things, they're not going to damage us. I'm talking about the kind of resilience when we take it to God, and we're like, God, you need to heal this heart. You need to heal this heart because right now I'm feeling hurt. Right now I'm feeling angry. Right now I'm feeling frustrated. Lord, I need you to feel it. Fill my voids, God. Because I don't want these things to be triggered and all of it to go out the window. All of it to go out the window. God, whatever I have to face, I want to face it, but I want it with the right heart. I don't want these memories. I don't want these people to trigger something and all of a sudden it turns dark. All of a sudden the old me comes right back. I mean, it still happens, you know. I got to put it back in check, you know. I got to put it back in check. But whatever our motive is, it comes out. If we want position, believe me, it comes out in our walk with God. It's going to be played out because we see the moves. Everybody on the outside watching, we're like, we know what they want. You know, we know what they want. But we don't want to walk through this life broken. And we don't think and we don't realize we're broken because we push it down. We shove it down. We want to be truly healed. We want to be a true servant of God. We want to be somebody like Joseph who's able to face all these things and not have any wrong motive towards people. Wrong motive towards people. And as we go on into the story of Joseph, it's just powerful. It's powerful how forgiveness sets us free. It's powerful how true humility brings us into greatness. See, God is going to work all these things out in our life. But we need to be His servants. We need to allow God to be the God of our life. See, He's the one that created you. He's the one that gave you life. He's the one that breathed into your lungs. He's the one that knew you before your mother knew you. He brought you into this world with a purpose. He brought you into this world with a good intention for you. I know we live in a fallen world, and I know that there's so much evil out there. I know that there's so much wrong. But that's the sin. That's the sin that lives in this world. But God's purpose for your life does not have to be contaminated. God's purpose for your life does not have to be suppressed for you. God's purpose in your life does not mean it's done and it's over. It's only over when you stop. It's only over when you quit. But God doesn't quit on us. So why should we quit on him? See, we always want to see God as the genie in the bottle. We want to see God like, okay, well, I prayed for this. Okay, let it be done. And then it doesn't work out the way we want it. And then we're blaming God. Or we're blaming God because of people. We're blaming God because of what they've done to us. We're not giving God our best because, oh, well, they did this to me and they did that to me. But what do those people have to do with you and God? What do those people have to do with you and God? Because at the end of the time, I'm going to stand before God alone. And at the end of time, that person's going to stand before God alone. They have to answer for themselves. I have to answer for myself. I can't blame you for me not doing my part. You know what I mean? I can't blame those other people. Now, did they hurt me? Yes. Was I upset? Yes. But can God heal? Yes. God can heal. God can move in your life. God can change every situation, just like Joseph, just like that. He had a dream, and all he needed was that dream to bring him before Pharaoh and to change his whole life around. Joseph no longer had to look back. Joseph was out of the dungeon. Joseph was out of prison now. This is the thing for me and you. Our gift will make room for us. That means at the very moment that God wants, God's going to put your gift where it belongs. But a lot of the times we stay in this prison mentality, in this bondage mentality. Like Pastor was talking about earlier, we're free, but we don't realize we're free. Look at Israel. They were taken out of Egypt, but yet they still had the mentality, I want to go back to Egypt. I had it better. When they were the ones crying, God saved me. Here we are. God heard our cry. God heard our plea. We're not here by coincidence. Nothing in our life is by coincidence. Let's not look at our life like all the screw-ups and all the messes and all the wrongs. But let's look at our life that God is going to turn around each and every one of those situations for our good. God's going to turn around those situations to place you exactly where you belong in your future. See, because our future is not over yet. As long as I'm here, as long as I'm breathing, as long as God gives me another day, it's not over. It's not over. God's going to place you where you need to be. Don't allow life situations and life's tragedies to cause you to quit. And quitting doesn't necessarily mean like you don't do nothing. Quitting can mean you're no longer giving it your best. You're no longer trying. You're no longer giving it your all. You've given up on yourself. You've given up on what God has for you. You've given up on the people around you. You can no longer trust nobody because you're done. You're done with people. But let me just help you out a little bit. People are going to hurt you. People are going to do you wrong. But God has you. And if you put your heart, if you put your trust, if you put your life in God's hands, those people and those situations cannot stop God's purpose in your life. And those things cannot stop God putting you where you belong. Amen. Father, we just give you glory. We give you praise, Lord. You are so wise in the way you work with us, my God. You know